Welcome to Experts Unleashed, a podcast that aims to uncover how professionals and entrepreneurs transform their experience into income while making a positive impact in the world. I'm your host, Joel Irway, and over the past 4 years, I've helped entrepreneurs develop and launch their expert-based businesses to grow past 6 and 7 figures per year. Now, a professional expert serves their community through paid training, education, or service, and this podcast will show you how to design and execute your plan to become a 6 or 7 figure expert without a big team. So, let's get started.
Hey, what's going on, experts? Joel here with another episode of Experts Unleashed. My whole focus of running this podcast is to bring you the stories and the journeys of how other experts have seized opportunities throughout their entrepreneurial, throughout their professional, throughout their business careers. And today's guest is an excellent example of how to leverage your own existing problems, solve them, develop a passion, develop your own expertise, and then teach others as you go along that journey. Maggie Berghoff has a fascinating story, an incredible story about how she went through an unhealthy period and tried to figure out how to cure herself, going through all sorts of different stress and finding doctors, and ultimately discovered this newfound passion for functional medicine. I had a blast talking to Maggie, and she uncovered all the different pivot points that she had when she was investing with coaches and mentorships and going to doctors and then, going to the wrong doctors. So many different pivot points in this episode. You are going to love it. If you ever have been interested in figuring out how to really monetize your expertise, this is going to be specifically for you. When you get to the end of the episode, make sure that you seek out Maggie, give her a shout out, say, hey, I loved your episode, and let her know that you heard her on Experts Unleashed and give her some love. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Maggie, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So real quick, give us a quick 30 to 60 second background about who is Maggie, what are you doing today, and before we jump into the meat of our interview.
Awesome. So Maggie Berghoff, I optimize the health of 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. So through a functional medicine model plus then some. I focus a lot on environmental optimization as well. So it's a unique spin on things.
Environmental optimization, what does that mean?
Okay, yeah. So I believe there are 6 environmental stressors. So this is air, water, light, sound, EMF, electromagnetic frequencies, and food. So before we even go into, lab interpretation and optimizing your body, we focus on your living environment and make sure that is perfect to a T so that once you get well, you stay well long term.
Get well and stay well long term. Okay. Out of curiosity, right? So we had our pre-interview a few minutes ago, and you said that you work with, you optimize the health of 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs. Now, I know you've got an awesome backstory of why you do what you do, and we'll get into that in just a second. But I'm curious, why did you focus on 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs? What's so special about them?
So they have really unique needs. They're traveling often. They have massive speaking events. They are hosting huge launches. And so a lot of them have similar problems that I know how to fix really well, and then work on optimizing their body when they are home for some months at a time so that when they're traveling, they can handle those hits. They don't have to be purists when they're out on a business dinner or having a huge speaking event, and their body is basically set up for above and beyond success so they can handle all that stuff that's to come from traveling without burning out their adrenals and hormones and all the kind of symptoms that no one wants to deal with. So that's kind of why I focus on that particular person. How that came about is a whole nother story. So
I want to focus on that when we get into your journey. I always love to discover how you got to where you are today, because there's always pivot points. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, right? Is to understand that us as entrepreneurs, we are opportunists, right? So I'm going to make a note here because I want us to come back to that and figure out how you identified to work specifically with 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. But before we do that, let's rewind. Take us back to, let's see, you were 22 years old, so handful of years ago, not too long ago, but tell us how you got started in focusing on this field of functional medicine. Give us the genesis story, as I call it.
Oh gosh. So long story short, super healthy, fit girl my entire life. Then when I was 22, in the midst of my master's degree and going home and all this kind of stuff, my body crashed. It was like that final little tipping point that everybody who has any kind of symptoms has had. So I started getting symptoms like fatigue and skin rashes, and my hair was getting super thin and falling out. Bloating like none other, literally looked like 9 months pregnant sometimes after eating certain foods. So certain foods were causing reactions that never did before. Obviously needed to find out what was going on and was going to doctors, and no one could tell me what was wrong. They kept on bouncing me to other doctors. I can't tell you how many lab results that I got done all the time because everyone wanted to get whatever done. And those results always came back normal or suboptimal. And they really didn't tell me anything that was going on in my body, said it was normal or that they didn't know and it was some rare disease, and just kind of left me stranded. Had me trying some pharmaceuticals and then see it back in a year or whatever. I knew that wasn't the way that, it had to be, and that there was something going on in my body that could be fixed. Because I hadn't been like that my whole life.
So you were struggling with, so you're going to school, you were getting your master's, you're going to school to become a nurse practitioner, right? So it's pretty ironic. You're in the health field, but yet you're completely unhealthy. Maybe not completely, but you're struggling with health issues yourself. And I find it all too common. You look in the hospital when you go to get treated, and it's sad to say a lot of the nurses are some of the most nurses and doctors are some of the unhealthiest people there.
Well, you know why? It's because in medical school and in training, we're not taught anything that's going on in the world today. We're taught, here's the symptom, here's the guideline of what pharmaceutical to take, and here's the guideline of when we see you back. Literally, it's not even addressed per that person. Everything is one size fits all. And in today's world, with all the toxins and all of our exposures and stressors and the food we're eating, even the organic food sometimes has chemicals. It's just, we have different problems now, and we're not taught that in medical school how to address it. I literally never even heard of the word food intolerance or leaky gut or adrenal fatigue while in school, which is just beyond crazy because that's what we're dealing with right now.
That's fantastic. So, okay, you're going to school, you get sick, you go see doctors, they're giving you drugs like, hey, try this. The tip, if anybody who's studied, the only reason why I know this is in my webinar agency, I've done a handful of webinar health webinars, leaky gut webinars. And so I kind of know a little bit of the terminology and the lingo. But big pharma is trying to pump all sorts of drugs to try and fix your symptoms. What was the tipping point where you were like, enough is enough?
Okay, this is so sad. So I don't tell a lot of people this, but one time at one of my appointments, this specialist, he was known as the best guy in town, told me I have a rare kidney disease. My kidney is failing. I'm going to have to be on immunoglobulin therapy, which is IV therapy 3 times a week the rest of my life. And he doesn't know how to fix it. He's so sorry. There's really nothing he can do. That's it. And then, so after he told me all of that, he had his nurse schedule me for an appointment 6 months out. And I was just blown away by, he could tell me this stuff, basically say I'm screwed for the rest of my life, and then see you in 6 months. No medicine, no answers, no nutrition help, nothing. And then that's when I literally, after that appointment, got in my car and just bawled my eyes out like none other, and just knew that I'm the only one who cares enough about me to go the extra mile and figure this out. That was honestly the biggest tipping point for me, where I just had to say enough is enough.
Man, I could talk about this for a long time. I feel like there's a massive problem in the United States healthcare system. I'm not going to go into the long story, but my mother was getting treated for breast cancer, and we went to doctors, and it's just like we went to these doctors who said, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z for you. She got treated. And one of the major things that she talked about that the doctor, who was the best doctor in town, was going to do for her, just forgot to do it. And I'm just like, oh, there's no accountability. And the whole reason why I bring this up is because you said something that was really, really important. You said, I'm the only one who cares about myself. I have to be in control. I have to be my own advocate. And I'm not trying to knock the doctors. I know there's lots of great doctors out there, but I just think the system as a whole is very broken. And I loved your statement there. It was like, I have to be my own advocate if I want to take care of this.
And you said something really good. I have a lot of doctor friends too. Doctors are awesome for an acute care model. In the United States, we've got the best dang acute care model out there. If you break your arm, if you've got some kind of disease, whatever, you can get help. and the help that you need. And there is a place and time for antibiotics and pharmaceuticals. But for the things that most people are dealing with right now, like stomach issues and hormone imbalances, those are long-term things that have been building up for a long time. And they require a totally different way of healing and addressing those. So it's just the difference of the models that really is where it's at.
Okay. So you have this meeting with the doctor and you realize I'm on my own. Like if I want to really take care of this, it's got to be up to me. So you're graduated at this point, right?
Yep. And
So
I'm working for the hospital.
and you're working for a hospital. Okay, cool. So you've got a day job, you're working, you've graduated, you've got, probably a job that you thought was going to be very, very great. This is what you're really working towards, right? So you're a nurse practitioner and you have this meeting with the doctor and you're like, crap, this is on me. So this is my kind of curious brain here. I don't necessarily know exactly what the term functional medicine means. Did you learn functional medicine in school, or is this something that you had to learn in addition after you graduated?
So I actually was introduced to it from an aunt who was seeing a functional medicine doctor at the time. I had never heard of it either. But as I started looking into it, I found out that it's basically everything I wanted. Looking in deeper to see what's going on in the body, finding the root cause of what's happening. So instead of just taking a pill to cover up the symptoms, and guess what? Supplements are pills too. That's a huge thing I teach to all my clients. A supplement is still a pill covering up symptoms. So unless you want to get to the root cause of what's going on and actually reverse it so you can get better for forever and not have to rely on medication, then you have to address it through functional medicine lens. Now, not all functional medicine practitioners are the exact same. So I got trained, but then I also followed a functional doctor who I really respected because he did things at a different angle and not just supplementations. Here's the natural herb, here's this. He actually really dug deep into the person's individual story. Every nutrition plan, every exercise plan, everything was addressed towards that specific person based on their genetics, their history, their environment. So I was really led toward that. And so I actually ended up hiring him. And that's who my mentor was first and foremost. But that's how I kind of got into the functional medicine, find the root cause type of thinking.
So how long were you studying this, right? So, and was this the pivot point when you started to look at functional medicine? Was after that meeting with the doctor?
So I would say that the functional medicine training, which is an additional 3 years after your master's degree, was huge. It taught me so much about understanding the pathophysiology of the body. Honestly, it's harder than medical school. It's super detailed. But I would say that my turning point in becoming the practitioner I am and truly healing my body and my family's was working with my mentor. So he taught me not only how to practice functional medicine, but how to really, really care about the client, what's going on in their body, their specific needs, and address it through optimizing all those stressors as well. So the water, the EMF exposure, which is huge right now, the light matching your circadian rhythm to the outside sun, all those kind of little details that a lot of functional medicine practitioners kind of neglect. So it was that honestly, hiring him and working through his protocol and having him mentor me was my big thing that taught me the unique and the right way, I believe, to practice it.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to make sure we stay on the right timeline here, right? So before we jump too far ahead, you meet with your doctor, realize it's up to you. You start doing your own research, you discover functional medicine, but at the same time, you're working at a hospital full time. And you'd mentioned in our pre-interview, you worked there for about 2 months and you realized crap, this isn't for me, right?
So I worked there longer, but full time for about 2 months, like the whole Monday through Friday thing. And it was horrible. I actually never anticipated that, but they made me for the whole training portion. So after that, then I dropped down to part-time just to kind of go by. I knew I was going to not work at the hospital for forever, but I did for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you worked there for 2 years. When was the pivot point where you're like, okay, this isn't for me? When did you start to kind of research your own, what I want to know is, obviously at some point you make the decision you're going to go start your own business, but when did you realize that there was a bigger opportunity, not just to help yourself with functional medicine, but to be able to be an expert and help other people? When did you realize that opportunity existed?
So before I left the job, I definitely knew, and everybody at work knew that this is what I was doing, and I was a big health person and all that kind of stuff. And I was working towards it while I was there. So I was, but not seeing clients. I was doing things like who my client should be, my website, all that kind of stuff. And then when I was on maternity leave, which was just last January of 2017, is when I decided, okay, this is done. This is my endpoint. This 3 months where I get to stay home with this amazing little baby. I'm working towards what I'm going to do afterward. And that's when I was working with my mentor, and we set up everything to have this business model after the maternity leave was over. That's when the first big turning point was, where I said, I'm not going back. I have an obligation now to spread my word to more people who are struggling with this stuff, who are still going to traditional medical doctors for these things. And I kind of just said, again, enough is enough right then.
How did you find your mentor? When you're doing all this background research while you're working, either full-time or part-time, how did you discover this, he or she? I'm not sure who it was.
Yeah, so it was a male. And I'm a super big believer in everything happens for a reason. I never really do things to make things happen. I think they call it manifesting. And so I found him through Institute for Functional Medicine in a chat room. So we had one of the events, I chose the live stream because I was just so busy with everything. I don't know, maybe I was planning a wedding then or something. And so in that chat room, everyone's chatting around and talking. And I don't know, everyone said where they were from. And he said he was from but used to live in Indiana, and I live in Indiana right now. And so we just kind of connected afterward. We were friends for about a year before he even mentioned that he does mentor for businesses. And then I kind of just seemed right. We were already friends. I trusted him. I knew we had similar ties. And I just kind of let him do his thing. He told me his price. I said, sure, whatever, even though I was terrified inside because it was something I'd never done before. It was the same year that I got married, got pregnant, got my job, got my first house. And so it was a lot going on, but I just said yes, went with it, and it was the best decision I've ever made.
So let me understand something. So you're going through this training called Institute for Functional Medicine. You're learning all about functional medicine at the same time. And then you realized, when did you realize, was he the one who showed you that there's an opportunity to teach other people how to do this? That's what I'm trying to piece together here.
So, okay, let me think here how to best say this. He taught me there was more than functional medicine, I guess, because a lot of people who had questions on their client cases, so we have a secret forum, who had questions on their cases, he always put a unique spin on things and thought of things no one else thought of. And so I knew that that's the kind of practitioner I want to be. I want to be an above and beyond type of practitioner, not just here's the meal plan, here's the whatever supplement list. So I was attracted to him for that purpose. Because he did go above and beyond and do things that not other people talk about, like light cycles and EMF exposure, which you're not taught in functional medicine practice.
Awesome. So you're going through learning about functional medicine. How long did it take for you to start seeing results in your own body?
So for my own body, when I was, like I said before, that there are really, really good functional medicine practitioners and not so great ones. To be honest, I was seeing some not so great ones at first. So when I started using functional medicine for my own body, of course, I hired out because I believe that get outside of your own body. Even if you're the best doctor in the world, you need a doctor too. So I hired somebody. They just literally, when I walked in, they had a TV screen up with the PowerPoint slides on leaky gut, and he handed me leaky gut protocol before they even heard my story, before I even did any intake forms or anything. They just assumed, oh, well, she's come into our practice, must have leaky gut. Hated that. Walked out the door. After I spent hundreds of dollars on supplementations for them. And then I hired somebody else. Same thing. Supplements, no answers, kind of every abnormal on my test. If I had an abnormal nutrient, they would just throw a supplement at me. That is not the way that I like to practice functional medicine. That's not really, really healing the root cause. So that was about maybe a year and a half messing with functional medicine practitioners who weren't the right answer. And then when I hired my mentor, in 6 months, every single one of my symptoms were gone. All of my hormones were balanced. I got pregnant when they said I couldn't get pregnant before, and everything kind of resolved. So it wasn't until I practiced his protocol, my mentor's protocol, that I actually got results. And that came in less than 6 months. But 6 months was like the total, okay, we're done. Off the supplements, off the meds, you're good to go. You got the tools to succeed.
There's a very valuable lesson there, right? It's especially when we are seeking out experts to go hire or to learn from. One of the things that we have to understand is that you have to find what's right for you. And while I'm sure for the first year and a half when you're working with these other practitioners, I'm sure they helped people, but they had their own system that they put people through, and that's fine, but it didn't resonate with you. It wasn't until you found and you connected with the right person, that's when the transformation really happened. It's like, because you can go through somebody's system, you can go through somebody's whatever you want to call it, and sure, you might get results, but like, you're going to get the best results when you align with the method and the person and the expert who you're learning from. I love that.
100%.
Okay. So within 6 months of working with this mentor, now your body is completely transformed. All of your symptoms are gone. And you're probably, I'm assuming you're just on cloud nine right now. Like, I mean, you got married, you had a baby, or you're pregnant. I mean, what did that feel like?
A relief, because to be honest, when I even was working with the functional practitioners who weren't getting me the results that I was looking for, I was really discouraged, and I almost gave up and thought, okay, well, this is just how I'm going to live the rest of my life. I had gained 50 pounds in the matter of months when my body kind of tweaked out, and I was kind of just accepting that this is my new self. I just am going to need to be on medicine. Like, this is what my body did. But when I realized that it was just because I hadn't found the right person, the right protocol for what was going on in my body, it was just so relieving. And I literally just felt like myself again. I can't even say it better than just I felt like me again. And it was so relieving.
So what's fascinating about this is, like, you're going through your entire journey and you're experiencing these symptoms, like, because now you're helping other people overcome these symptoms. And that's the true definition of an expert, is you have to be ahead of where you have to be, what your clients want to be. You have to be the spitting image of what your clients want to become. And tell me about the point where, so when you hired your mentor, did you hire him to help overcome your symptoms, or did you specifically hire him to help develop the business model, or both?
So I hired him to help develop the business model. But when I hired him, I had already kind of figured out my own body to an extent where it was manageable, but I still wasn't feeling amazing. And he actually requires his mentors to go through his program. So it was when I went through his program and he knew I still had some health stuff tweaked out. I was still on my thyroid medication and my hormones were still a little out of whack. So when I went through the protocol at the same time as the business building, first of all, it helped obviously heal my body forever and ever. But then second of all, when I was doing the business building, I determined that I would love to practice other people this protocol because, oh my God, it changed my life. And so we actually focused on that. So actually now I teach other people that as well. And it's so like perfect because I went through it. It healed my body. Nothing else did. So it was the protocol that I decided I want for everybody who comes into my life to know and understand.
Okay. So when did this happen? What year did you hire the mentor and you make this shift?
Early 2017. So it was when I was on maternity leave, January 2017. I worked with him a little before that because I knew that like I had planned out this is when I'm going to do that. But then I full-time left my job only in October 2017. But before then I was seeing clients here and there, just a couple because I was still working. But that's when everything kind of fell into place.
So this is only about 16 months ago, not all that long ago. Perfect.
Yeah,
awesome. Okay. So January 2017, you turn the corner, go full time. Like, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is who I want to serve. So now I want to transition into how you discover, like, who was your first client, not name, but like type of person. Who was that first client ever in this business?
Yes. So actually she was really young. She was, and I didn't expect that. She was, I think, 22, super active, loved yoga, so adorable, very pretty, but she was struggling with skin. So she was getting acne, eczema, and she was struggling with bloating after eating certain foods and didn't know what to do about it. That was my first client. She was a rock star, did everything to a T I told her to, reported back. And how I see clients is once a week. So it's full access and once a week appointments and then full access email and text in between. So we're really like go, go, go. So we become really close. And that was my very, very first client. Her name was Paige, love her forever. And then since then I've kind of transitioned, but that's the person I work with still. The motivated, gonna make changes, not afraid to invest in things, but there are things you're gonna have to buy. Maybe your air is junk. You're gonna have to buy an air filter or, purifier. So that's the person who's ready to make those changes.
So how'd you find Paige?
Through a workout class. So at the YMCA that we go to here in town, we had done a workout class together and we were sitting in the sauna together afterward. And we're just talking and I tell her like what I do. And she's just so intrigued. And she's just the kind of person who's like, yep, sign me up. Let's do this. And just jumped on board. And it was my first client and she knew that. And she was just fantastic. And so that's, and that's how honestly I've met my best clients. Random situations, true relationships in person or through referrals. Like you say, you tell your best friend about me. Like that's the kind of clients that I really find are my favorites for sure.
Well, referrals and your warm network, there's always going to be like the best clients because they already have that relationship with you. They know you, they like you, and they trust you, which is fantastic. So, so how long were you working with Paige? And I mean, what type of results did she get? I mean, yeah.
So she was my first client, and I knew the kind of results I got from Balance Protocol. That's the protocol's name, Balance Protocol. But actually, when she started getting results in literally a week after working with me, I was telling my husband, like, really? Is this real? Am I really making this impact? Because she was struggling with acne and face stuff. And I gave her some specific nutrient stuff based on what her lab results said and her genetics said. And within a week and 2 weeks, her skin had cleared up. She was feeling energetic. Her bloating was gone. So we actually worked together for 6 months total because there's a lot more than that. You can get rid of the symptoms, but you have to heal afterwards. You have to heal the body so that it doesn't come back again. And the environment optimization stuff, of course. So I worked with every client for 6 months, but she started getting results literally after about a week of working together, which was crazy.
That's amazing. So, okay, got your first client, amazing results. And you're just starting this business, so this is part-time, right? You're still doing this part-time, right?
I was still working at the hospital.
Still working at the hospital. So, like in your mind, what's going through your head? Like you've probably got this I'm assuming you've got this big vision for the business, but like tell me what's going through as you're working with Paige and you're seeing those incredible results.
That I was kind of just like, I can do this. Like we got this. And I always had confidence that, if I put my mind towards something, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to succeed. But I always know there's setbacks. And for things to happen that quickly, honestly, I attribute it to an amazing one-on-one mentor because I didn't mess around with, 297 programs. Like I hired up. And I think that was a huge, huge successful thing for me to do because I was just relieved. And so my husband was so supportive. And I just kind of decided this is the life we're going to do. And ultimately, I'm going to quit this year. I'm going to quit my job at the hospital, which was secure. And we had health insurance. And it's a sought after job. A lot of people want my job or wanted the job I had. And I just decided that I'm not doing it anymore. So this year is the year that I'm going to quit and do this full time. I'm making a way bigger impact on people's lives this way, even though I see less people because I'm very one-on-one exclusive. Even though I see less people, I'm making way bigger of an impact than I do seeing 50 people every single day, giving them pills, fixing their stitches or whatever at the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So did you try and go out and get more clients like Paige? Like when did we make the shift now from clients like Paige to 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs? So like what's happening in between that gap?
So my next client I had was, I had a couple in between there who weren't quite my avatar, but like the sweetest people ever. They got amazing results too. But then I had another client who was a man in Chicago, had this huge, awesome job in a huge, tower down in downtown Chicago. And with working with me, he cured his health, felt amazing, quit his job. And then now he does house design and stuff like that, has his own company. And so then I was thinking, that's awesome. Like, you're now my favorite client. I can't believe it. And he attributes all that to me. And I, of course, felt like, really, like, just from getting your health right, you were able to quit your job and now create this new business that's booming already, really? But it did. And so then I decided that, or I didn't decide, it just kind of started happening. I started attracting people who were like that. And I was going to networking and mastermind type events. And that's who all my friends are now. And so it just kind of fell into my lap. I got another client he's a big billionaire entrepreneur, and he then introduced me to his friends, and it's just kind of how it rolled out because they, like I said, it's a very, very specific group with specific health concerns and a motivation level unlike any other, and that's kind of what I ended up doing.
So when was this transition officially to like 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs? Like when did you make the decision? Like, okay, like there's something here. Like I've got I can see there's a big enough audience. I have access to that network. When did that happen?
So actually February, I was in New York City for like a bunch of meetings and stuff and talking to some people, and right now I had a mix. I had a lot of high-end entrepreneurs, and I had a lot of socialite type women, successful exec type of people. And they just told me, you're so good at what you do with this entrepreneur space, and they love you. And so you should just run with it and just focus on that person, because there's plenty of them. You're in all the circles. They're all your friends. And so they just encouraged me to kind of just focus there and just kind of do one thing at a time. So I said, sure. And so that's what I've led into. And of course, that doesn't mean it's all exclusive or all inclusive. If somebody comes to me and they're not that demographic, but they are my demographic of, like my Pages and of the world, right? I'm going to help them if I have room in my one-on-one. But that's how it kind of unraveled. Basically, my peers, who I really respect, and I think that's huge, surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, kind of encouraged that, and I went with it.
So when you talk to these clients, right, these 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs, thinking back as to like your journey going through, okay, when you had your symptoms and you were sick and then you were meeting all these doctors, how often do you hear that story get repeated when you're talking to your potential clients?
All the time. And even the functional medicine situation about seeing the practitioner that wasn't just right for them. Almost everybody has had things like migraines, bloating, skin issues, their hair is thinning, and they think it's just something they have to deal with, or they're stressed, it's normal, or whatever. Is not normal. Being tired after day work is not normal. Most people, you shouldn't have to be, right? If your body is really optimized, you shouldn't be. And so I hear all the time, and people who go and come to me with like 15 supplements that they're taking and not a clue to why, or really what's going on in their body, and they don't have an action plan to fix what's going on in their body so that they can get off those supplements. Now, I'm not like opposed to supplements. There's a time and place, just like pharmaceuticals, but it's about finding out what that person needs. So like, what does Joel need? Like, what is going on in his body? What do his lab tests say? What are his genetics, his environment, his situation? And then targeting supplementation based on that.
Awesome. I'm scared to ask you, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, you've probably seen me down this cup of coffee for the past 40 minutes. Like, is that good or bad? Like, is coffee good? Is coffee bad?
Good question. It depends. Totally depends on what's going on in your body. So for coffee, for example, if you're what's called a fast oxidizer, which we can tell through an easy hair test, it's so simple. That means you oxidize your macros, fats, carbs, and proteins really quick. So if you're a fast oxidizer, first of all, you need a higher fat diet to kind of slow things down so that you have time to absorb the nutrients, but also you do bad with coffee. Whereas if you're a slow oxidizer, you do great with coffee. It makes you feel awesome. And you need to be a low fat diet because fat is too hard to digest for your slow system. So it just depends on what's right for you, but I don't judge. I mean, I always I'm a standard person. Like that's kind of our mantra in Balance Protocol, raise your standards. Why, if you have the opportunity to raise your standards, do it. But at the same time, we're not purists, because I know a lot of my clients that, these entrepreneurs, we're traveling, we have meetings, we have situations where we can't just pack our lunch or whatever it is. And so we're not being purists. I'm not going to ask you to live under a rock or, go in the mountains and don't have any phones or computers. We all need them. So it's just about kind of balancing that out and using Balance Protocol techniques to do it.
That's amazing. I've been so fascinated in this world of health and peak performance. I'll throw that in air quotes because there's a lot of high performance experts, peak performance experts. I've actually built a lot of webinars under, helping coaches land new clients in the peak performance space. But like, I get so into it, and then it's kind of like, it seems like it's too much, and I'm like, duh, and I just kind of drop it. So, as an expert, you're the functional medicine expert. What would you say to somebody who is considering taking a turn for their health, for the better, saying, okay, like I don't really want to go see all these doctors, and or I've seen a ton of doctors and I don't really believe or trust what they're prescribing, but I'm a little nervous because this is kind of out there, right? What would you say to somebody like that?
Higher. Because I did, you need to too. Even if you are, a physical trainer and you're in the best shape ever, or if you are a nutritionist and you have all these books out and everybody uses your recipes and stuff, you need somebody on your team that you trust to walk you through the protocol, because it is overwhelming. You can spend hours Googling. Trust me, I did it. And then when I was like, before I had hired somebody to help me, hours and hours Googling, like you said, watching every podcast, every webinar, everything. And then you compile all these notes. And I'm sure you're like, yeah, I do that. You're compiling all these notes. And then you try to do every single plan because you're a high performer and you're type A or whatever, and you want the best. So you combine all the plans into one big plan and think you can do it all. And actually that's really, really hard on your body. And you're probably going to end up more sick. So my biggest advice is to hire someone you trust, a clinician who does one-on-one like myself, instead of mass programs where it's one size fits all, so that you really get the attention you need, and then the steps. Because maybe something in a group program or a webinar doesn't apply to your life, So you need that one-on-one direct attention to really make it easy for you to follow, do this, do that, do that. Basically like a micromanager for your health.
Amazing. I love it. Maggie, we have talked about so much stuff today. I mean, we went through your whole journey of when you were sick and you were stressed out and your body was just not operating at its peak. You said at one point you put on 50 pounds and you kind of almost came to the acceptance that this is just going to be life for myself. The way that you were able to kind of transition, and I love your story, is you solved your own problem first. You learned how to take control because you said, I went to go get help. So this is huge in the self-awareness, by the way. Like, you went to go see doctors, which is what we're told you're supposed to do, but you knew, like, deep down, you had the intuition, which I'm huge on, by the way, for experts and entrepreneurs. Like, a lot of us are very, very big on intuition, but you had the intuition to say, like, I don't necessarily trust the diagnosis of what they're telling me, right? And that all happened when you went into your car and you started bawling. And that was kind of the full realization that, like, if, this is going to be up to me. And you made it, it seems like you made it now your life journey and your life's purpose to figure out how to heal yourself. And then you went on this long journey of doing your own research and testing out you discovered functional medicine. And then you hired a couple of experts in the functional medicine. And even then you didn't vibe with the right people until you finally found the one person that, you knew it felt right. They transformed your life, and that has led you down the journey of now spreading that message, helping other people transform their lives. Such an incredible message, such an incredible journey. Did I leave anything out in that recap?
You nailed it. Yep, you nailed it.
So where can people connect with you, right? This is I'm super interested. I want to continue this conversation because I'm always like, I go in these cycles, like, I'll go on a 14-day diet. And so anyway, let me stop talking. Where can people connect with you? Drop some links. How do they get in touch with you?
You're not alone. So many people do that. And when they come to me, they're like, I've done this, this, and this, and this. But you can reach me at maggieberghoff.com. My last name's tricky. So it's B as in boy, E-R-G, silent H, O-F-F as in Frank. So maggieberghoff.com, there's a contact there, and you can just send me a little chat. You can apply for a consultation. Consultations are actually complimentary. So we can just hop on the phone call and see if it's right for you.
Awesome. So maggieberghoff.com. We will also include a link in the show notes, of course. And out of curiosity, right? You talk with a client, you have a consultation. Let's say that they sign up with you.
Yeah.
What's the first, I'm now just asking because I'm super curious, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say that I become a client, this is all custom, right? You said it's one-on-one. And I'm sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm assuming this is all custom. Is that true?
Yep. Everything's personalized to a T. So no one gets the same nutrition. No one gets the same workout plan. No one gets anything the same.
But you said something about hair samples, right? I mean, am I sending anything to a lab?
Yeah. So your question of what's the first step. So when a client signs on with me, well, first we have a consultation to see if it's right for them and right for me, because I don't take everybody and I only take a certain number at any time. So full access. So the first steps is a big comprehensive case review. We go over literally everything, all your symptoms, what your life's like, all this kind of stuff. And based on that, I decide the first labs that you may need. So what kind of labs do you need? Do you need hormones, genetics, heavy metals, or do you need a nutrient panel, whatever it is that you need, food intolerance test. So based on your story, we decide what tests you need up front. And then while we wait for those results, immediately we're already optimizing your living space. So we're looking at the air quality, your light cycles, EMF exposure, how to wire your computer so that you don't have exposure when you're on it. all that kind of stuff. And then as results come in, we start going over them, and every single result that comes in, we tweak your plan. So we're constantly, every single week on our video calls, tweaking and assessing and basically coming up with your perfect day, the perfect Joel healthy habits ritual. And so that's what we worked through for the 6 months.
Perfect. So I can tell you, like, without a shadow of a doubt, I probably know why 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs like vibe with what you're talking about. Because when you start to tell somebody, oh, we need to look at your EMF light waves and like all this other stuff, like the average Joe, the average person is probably just going to be like, all right, yeah, that's not really for me. But entrepreneurs are weird, and we'll try like anything. Like I know a couple of people who talk about like those glasses that you put on to block the blue lights, and you know, and I've been a little skeptic of that stuff too. But anyway, I think you are more likely to get people to listen to you when you target, you know, any entrepreneur, because like, okay, sure, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, it's for people looking to be the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
It's not mediocre status quo by any means. I mean, it's super specialized that you're able to optimize and be the best.
Awesome. Maggie, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your expertise. Please, if you're listening right now, go connect with Maggie. Let her know that you heard her on our Experts Unleashed podcast. Blow her up. Connect with her if you're interested in optimizing your health. I know I'm going to be reaching out to her. Just hit her up, have a consultation, and let her know that you appreciated this episode. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, Maggie, and thank you everybody else for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. Now, if you want additional trainings and content outside of the podcast, I release exclusive video trainings on my Experts Unleashed YouTube channel. And if you'd like to come hang out with thousands of other fellow experts, join our Facebook group community where we do hangouts and webinars to help support you in your journey. Finally, if you'd like my personal help to develop, launch, or scale your business, contact me directly for private consulting opportunities to see if any spots are available. And you can find all of the information above at expertsunleashed.com.